The desperate signal. Dr. Sarah Chen sat alone in the Deep Space Communications Center at 3 a.m. when the signal arrived. The massive radio telescope had picked up something impossible, a transmission using mathematical sequences that could only come from an intelligent species. But this wasn't the first contact humanity had dreamed of. This was a cry for help from the darkness between stars. Sarah's hand shook as she ran the signal through translation protocols. The message was repeating every 12 minutes, broadcast on frequencies that suggested desperate urgency. As the computer finished processing, words appeared on her screen that would change everything. To any species capable of understanding this message, we are the Valthera. We are dying. Our fleet carries the last survivors of our civilization. We seek sanctuary and assistance. We offer all our knowledge in exchange for help. Please respond if you receive this. Sarah stared at the screen. The Valthera. Every human knew that name. 15 years ago, they had arrived at Earth's borders with a massive fleet, demanding humanity's surrender. The war that followed lasted 3 brutal years. Millions died on both sides before the Valthera suddenly withdrew, leaving behind only silence and scars. Now they were asking for help. Sarah immediately contacted Admiral Patricia Reeves, head of Earth's Defense Council. Within 2 hours, the emergency session began. World leaders filled the secure conference room, their faces showing the same mixture of confusion and suspicion Sarah felt. This could be a trap, General Harrison stated bluntly. The Valthera have shown no mercy before. They destroyed entire colonies. The signal analysis shows genuine distress patterns, Sarah argued. Their transmission contains detailed information about their current situation. They're not hiding anything. Admiral Reeves studied the data carefully. The Valthera fleet consisted of only 47 ships now, compared to the thousands they had brought during the war. More disturbing was the medical data they had transmitted. Their species was suffering from something they called the Gray Death, a plague that was slowly destroying their ability to reproduce. Dr. Michael Torres, Earth's leading xenobiologist, had spent the last 6 hours analyzing the alien medical information. According to their data, the Gray Death affects their genetic structure at the cellular level. They can't have children anymore. The survivors in those ships are all that's left of their entire civilization. The room fell silent. Even humanity's greatest enemies didn't deserve extinction. President Elena Vasquez spoke first. How many survivors are we talking about? Approximately 200,000 individuals across their entire fleet, Sarah replied. Their largest ships are running on minimal power. They're barely keeping life support operational. General Harrison crossed his arms. And you believe we should help the species that try to wipe us out? I believe we should consider what helping them says about who we are as a species, President Vasquez replied quietly. The debate continued for hours. Some argued that humanity owed the Valthera nothing after the devastation they had caused. Others pointed out that saving a dying civilization would demonstrate humanity's moral superiority. But Sarah Chen had a different perspective entirely. This isn't about them, she said finally. This is about us. If we can save an entire species from extinction, shouldn't we try? Isn't that what makes us human? After 12 hours of discussion, the vote was close. By a margin of just 3 votes, Earth's Defense Council decided to respond to the Valthera distress signal. Captain Marcus Webb was chosen to lead humanity's response team. Webb had fought against the Valthera during the war, losing his brother in the Battle of Europa Station. If anyone had reason to hate them, it was him. But Webb also understood something that made him perfect for this mission. He knew the difference between war and genocide. I won't pretend I don't have personal feelings about the Valthera, Webb told Admiral Reeves before departing. But letting an entire species die because of those feelings would make us monsters. The journey to the Valthera fleet took 8 days. Webb's ship, the ESS Compassion, carried a small diplomatic team and enough medical supplies to help assess the alien plague. As they approached the coordinates provided in the distress signal, Webb felt his breath catch. The Valthera fleet was a shadow of its former power. Once mighty warships drifted silently through space, their hulls scarred and patched with crude repairs. Several ships showed signs of recent explosions, emergency venting of atmosphere that suggested internal systems failing catastrophically. "Captain," Communications Officer Lisa Park announced, "we're receiving a transmission from the lead Valthera vessel." The face that appeared on the main screen was barely recognizable as the same species that had once threatened Earth. Fleet Commander Zethkar looked ancient and hollow, his once proud scales now dull and cracked. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute defeat. "Captain Webb of Earth, I know your name. You fought well during our war. I did not expect your species to answer our call." Webb studied the alien commander carefully. During the war, Zethkar had been known for his ruthless tactics and absolute confidence. Now he looked like someone carrying the weight of his entire civilization's survival. "Commander Zethkar, we received your distress signal. Earth's government has authorized me to assess your situation and determine how we might assist." Something flickered in the alien's eyes. Surprise, perhaps even hope. "You would help us? After what we did to your people?" "We're here, aren't we?" Webb replied simply. What followed was the most unusual diplomatic meeting in human history. Webb and his team were granted permission to board the Valthera flagship, where they witnessed firsthand the devastating effects of the Grey Death. The alien ship was filled with medical bays containing dying Valthera, children who would never grow to adulthood, adults whose genetic structure was slowly collapsing at the cellular level. Dr. Amanda Foster, Webb's chief medical officer, worked alongside Valthera scientists to understand the plague. What she discovered was horrifying in its elegance. The Grey Death was an engineered virus created by another alien species called the Nethes as a weapon of ultimate destruction. It didn't just kill, it prevented future generations from ever existing. "The Nethes released this weapon when we refused to surrender our homeworld," Zethkar explained during their first meeting. "We fought them for 10 years, but the plague spread faster than our medicine could adapt. In the end, we had to abandon everything and flee." Webb felt a chill of recognition. "The Nethes, are they still pursuing you?" "No," Zethkar replied grimly. "We destroyed their fleet in our final battle, but the victory cost us everything. These ships contain all that remains of the Valthera people." As Webb's team continued their assessment, they discovered the true scope of the crisis. The Grey Death was adaptive, constantly mutating to overcome any treatment the Valthera developed. Worse, it was beginning to affect their technology as well. The plague somehow interfered with the biological components of their advanced systems, causing critical failures throughout their fleet. "We estimate 3 months before our life support systems fail completely," Chief Medical Officer Veltar admitted. "Perhaps 4 if we reduce population density further." That night, alone in his quarters aboard the Compassion, Captain Webb faced the most difficult decision of his career. Earth had authorized him to provide limited assistance, medical supplies, perhaps temporary refuge for some survivors. But what the Valthera needed was a miracle. And somehow, Webb believed humanity might be capable of providing one. The next morning, he sent a message back to Earth that would change the course of both civilizations forever. "Admiral Reeves, this is Captain Webb. I'm requesting immediate authorization for Operation Phoenix. We're not just talking about helping a few thousand refugees. We're talking about saving an entire species from extinction. And I believe we're the only ones in the galaxy who can do it." The response from Earth came 12 hours later. 3 simple words that would echo through history. "Authorization granted. Proceed." Webb smiled as he read the message. Humanity was about to attempt the impossible. They were going to save their former enemies from complete extinction, not because they had to, but because they could. Because that's what humans did. The impossible rescue. The largest medical and scientific operation in human history began with a single question. How do you cure a plague designed to be incurable? Dr. Amanda Foster had been working for 3 weeks alongside Valthera scientists, and the challenge seemed impossible. The Gray Death adapted to every treatment they developed, mutating faster than any virus should be able to. Traditional medicine was useless against something that rewrote its own genetic code every few days. It's like fighting an enemy that learns from every battle, she explained to Captain Webb during their daily briefing. Every time we develop a potential cure, the virus evolves to resist it within hours. But Foster had an idea that made Webb's heart race with both excitement and terror. What if we're approaching this wrong? What if instead of trying to cure the virus, we cure the Valthera themselves? The concept was staggering in its audacity. Human genetic engineering had advanced significantly since the war, driven partly by the need to adapt to different planetary environments during colonization. If they could temporarily alter Valthera genetics to make them immune to the Gray Death, they might save the entire species. The risks are enormous, Foster admitted. We're talking about genetic modifications on a scale never attempted. If something goes wrong, we could accidentally kill everyone we're trying to save. Webb contacted Earth immediately. What Foster was proposing would require resources from across human space, genetic laboratories, quantum computers, and the expertise of every xenobiologist humanity had trained since first contact with alien life. The response from Admiral Reeves was swift and decisive. Dr. Foster's plan is approved. Whatever you need, Captain. Earth is committed to this rescue. What followed was the largest scientific collaboration in human history. Research stations throughout Earth's solar system began working around the clock. The lunar laboratories focused on genetic sequencing. Mars colonies provided quantum computing power. Even the deep space mining platforms contributed by processing rare elements needed for the treatment. Meanwhile, aboard the Valthera fleet, something remarkable was happening. The dying aliens watched in amazement as human ships arrived daily, bringing supplies, equipment, and personnel. Not weapons or demands for surrender, but help offered freely to former enemies. Commander Zethkar found himself working closely with Captain Webb, coordinating the massive rescue effort. During one of their planning sessions, the alien commander asked a question that had been troubling him for weeks. "Webb, why are your people doing this? We brought war to your worlds. We killed your civilians. We showed you no mercy. Why do you show us what we never gave you?" Webb was quiet for a long moment, considering his answer carefully. "During the war, I lost my brother. He died defending Europa Station when your fleet attacked. For years, I hated your entire species for that." Zethkar's expression grew pained. "I remember that battle. I led the assault personally. I am responsible for your brother's death." Webb nodded slowly. "I know. I recognized your command signature in the battle records." He paused, then continued. "But here's what I realized. My brother died fighting to protect innocent people. If I let your people die now when I have the power to save them, I dishonor everything he fought for." The alien commander was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "Your species is remarkable." As the genetic treatment entered its final development phase, a new crisis emerged. The Gray Death was mutating again, but this time it was doing something unprecedented. The virus was beginning to affect the Valthera's technology directly, causing critical system failures throughout their fleet. "We're losing ships," Chief Engineer Corvan reported during an emergency meeting. "The plague is somehow integrating with our biological computer systems. If this continues, the entire fleet will lose life support within days." Dr. Foster realized they were running out of time faster than anyone had anticipated. The genetic treatment wasn't ready for deployment yet, but waiting might mean losing everyone they were trying to save. "We need to evacuate the Valthera to human ships," she told Webb urgently. "Our technology is completely different from theirs. The virus shouldn't be able to affect our systems." But there was a problem. Human ships weren't designed to support Valthera physiology long-term. The atmospheric requirements were different. the gravity settings incompatible, and the psychological stress of living in alien environments could be devastating. Webb made a decision that would define his entire career. We're not evacuating them. We're going home. The plan was audacious beyond imagination. Instead of trying to treat the Valthera in their dying ships, humanity would bring the entire alien fleet back to Earth's solar system. Human shipyards would retrofit Valthera vessels with compatible technology, while medical facilities worked to cure the plague. You want to bring 200,000 former enemies into our home system? Admiral Reeves asked during the emergency conference. I want to save 200,000 people, Webb replied firmly. Whatever they were during the war, right now they're refugees who need our help. The debate on Earth was intense but brief. President Vasquez cast the deciding vote. Humanity didn't reach the stars by playing it safe. If we can save an entire civilization, we will. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. Human escort ships surrounded the Valthera fleet, providing technical support and emergency assistance as alien systems continued failing. Several times, human crews had to board dying Valthera ships to manually maintain life support systems. During one such emergency, Engineer Petty Officer Jake Morrison found himself working alongside a young Valthera named Siltheri to repair a critical oxygen recycler. As they worked together in a cramped maintenance shaft, the alien spoke quietly. Why do you help us? We are your enemies. Morrison looked at the alien, barely more than a child by Valthera standards, and saw only someone who needed help. You're not my enemy right now. Right now, you're just someone who needs to breathe. When they reached Earth's solar system, the sight that greeted them was unprecedented. Every human facility was mobilized for the rescue effort. Medical ships, research vessels, construction platforms, and supply freighters filled space around Earth like a protective embrace. The final phase of the rescue began immediately. Valthera ships were towed to human shipyards, where teams of engineers worked to replace failing biological systems with human technology. Meanwhile, in medical facilities throughout the solar system, Dr. Foster's genetic treatment entered its final testing phase. The moment of truth came on a Tuesday morning, Earth Standard Time. The first group of Valthera volunteers received the experimental genetic modification that would hopefully make them immune to the Gray Death. For 12 hours, humanity held its breath. Then the reports began coming in. The treatment worked. Not only were the test subjects immune to the virus, but their genetic structure was actually repairing damage caused by previous infections. Within weeks, every surviving Valthera had received the treatment. The Gray Death, the plague that had destroyed an entire civilization, was finally defeated. Not by weapons or superior technology, but by compassion and scientific collaboration. Commander Zethkar stood with Captain Webb on the observation deck of Luna Station, watching Valthera children play in the low-gravity gardens, the first new generation of their species to be born free of the plague in over a decade. We owe you everything, Zethkar said quietly. Our entire species exists because of your choice to help us. Webb shook his head. You don't owe us anything. We helped because it was the right thing to do. And that, Zethkar replied, is why your species will inherit the galaxy. Not through conquest or superior firepower, but through the simple choice to help when help is needed. 6 months later, the first joint human-Valthera colony ship launched for a distant star system. Former enemies had become partners in exploring the universe. The Gray Death had been defeated not just in Valthera bodies, but in both species' understanding of what it meant to be truly civilized. The rescue of the Valthera fleet became known throughout human space as the Phoenix Operation, the mission that brought an entire civilization back from the brink of extinction. It established humanity's reputation across the galaxy not as conquerors, but as the species that would answer any call for help, even from former enemies. Years later, when other alien species asked why humans had saved the Valthera, the answer was always the same: because when someone needs help, you help them. That's what humans do. That's what makes them human.